So that's why I got certified in PSYCH-K. So there's a handful, maybe 2 handfuls at this point, of modalities that actually talk to the subconscious and can rewire your beliefs, close the trauma loops that are stored there, and simultaneously reset the nervous system. And so when I discovered that, I was like, oh, I want to do something that's far more effective for people, where it's not like they're saying affirmations over and over again, hoping that it eventually sticks.
Does that work?
Affirmations, just to get nerdy for like 5 seconds here, they do work-ish. So what I mean by that is they're very helpful. I still love them, but they're not, again, communicating with the part of your consciousness that is informing your daily thoughts. So you would have to repeat them anywhere from 4,000 to 40,000 times for them to actually become a new belief, because the subconscious is 95 to 98% of your daily thoughts. And the science is changing rapidly right now, but it's anywhere between 4 million and 40 million times stronger than the conscious mind.
Wow.
Hence why I wanted to go directly to the source, because I've been seeing I've worked with hundreds of people, and they've made incredible changes in their lives, in their relationships, in their careers, in their health. And I wanted to help them make it in a way that was faster and long-standing, like that was truly sustainable. And that's when I got certified in PSYCH-K.
An entrepreneur straight out of New York City, Michael Chernow was cracking.
What up, fam? Welcome back to another episode of the Creatures of Habit Podcast. Today, I've got a guest on the show who is going to talk to us about transformation. I've got Ash Cebulka on the show, who is a world-renowned transformational coach. She's also an author, and she has created something called My New Chapter Journal. She is a Libra. Let's go Libras. Let's go Libras. I asked her birthday, and I only ask people their birthday when I know they're going to say October. And I'm a Libra. I love Libras, and I just get along with all the Libras. I just know when they're in the room. So I'm really, really excited. We're also going to talk about something called PSYCH-K, which I don't know anything about, so I'm going to be surprised on the podcast. But apparently it is a subconscious healing method. So really, I'm sitting next to a healer. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm sitting next to a healer, and I'm really excited to dive in with Ash, and I'm excited to share what she has to offer with y'all. Ash, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Of course. So I just want to hear, transformations. I think when we hear transformation today, a lot of transformation sort of is expressed in weight loss journey.
Yeah, physical, right? Totally.
Physical. Mm-hmm. So why don't we just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, where to begin?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 23. And so actually transformation has often meant about work and career for me. And the truth is I don't love labels, period. And in my industry, I don't love the term life coach. And so when I started coaching 11 years ago, that is the term that I used. And then I started to realize a lot of people were coming to me about transforming their career, like wanting to launch a purpose-driven career, understand like what they were put on the planet to do, and then making a business out of it. And I did that for about 7 years. And then I started to realize really I'm helping them transform their relationship with themselves. And then their whole life becomes an extension of that transformation. And so that's when I shifted over to calling myself a transformation guide. And now I really work holistically with people. So people usually come to me when they're in a big life transition. It could be career. I've been doing a lot of divorce lately with people who are going through divorce. I've been through a divorce, so I can empathize. And people who are just like, my life there's so many things changing all at once. And I want to heal the stuff that has been getting in my way for a long time, the patterns that just keep repeating over and over again, the beliefs or the lack of belief in myself. And we go on a journey and help them internally transform, which then makes their whole world transform outside.
So what is like the first step of doing something like that, the internal transformation?
I'll just jump into PSYCH-K and what it is. So about 7 years into my career, I discovered the power of the subconscious. So a lot of self-help, personal development is incredible. It's just that it's talking to the conscious mind, which is at best 3 to 5% of our daily thoughts and our habits. Whereas where our programming resides, what's informing our daily thoughts, the way we interact in our relationships, how we perceive the world, what we think is possible, that's all stored in the subconscious. And that is really formed from the ages of 0 to 7.
So wait, real quick. So what we think of the world or what we think we're capable of is all stored in the subconscious.
Yeah.
So in order to change that, you have to tap in there.
Yeah. So that's why I got certified in PSYCH-K. So there's a handful, maybe 2 handfuls at this point, of modalities that actually talk to the subconscious and can rewire your beliefs, close the trauma loops that are stored there, and simultaneously reset the nervous system. And so when I discovered that, I was like, oh, I want to do something that's far more effective for people, where it's not like they're saying affirmations over and over again, hoping that it eventually sticks.
Does that work?
Affirmations, just to get nerdy for like 5 seconds here, they do work-ish. So what I mean by that is they're very helpful. I still love them, but they're not, again, communicating with the part of your consciousness that is informing your daily thoughts. So you would have to repeat them anywhere from 4,000 to 40,000 times for them to actually become a new belief, because the subconscious is 95 to 98% of your daily thoughts, and the science is changing rapidly right now, but it's anywhere between 4 million and 40 million times stronger than the conscious mind.
Wow.
Hence why I wanted to go directly to the source, because I've been seeing I've worked with hundreds of people, and they've made incredible changes in their lives, in their relationships, in their careers, in their health. And I wanted to help them make it in a way that was faster and long-standing, like that it was truly sustainable. And that's when I got certified in PSYCH-K.
So tell us about PSYCH-K.
Yeah, so PSYCH-K is a modality that was actually created by a guy who had a little bit of the same frustration as me. He was a psychotherapist. He'd been doing that modality for 20 years. And he asked God, he was like, just give me a way to help my clients get faster results, like not having to come to therapy for 10 years in order to have the breakthrough and finally make the behavioral changes they want to make. And this process channeled through him. It was like this idea that he saw that just like channeled through him. He wrote it out, and it was really, really clear. So he started experimenting with friends and family, and it's using the body as the subconscious in a specific form of muscle testing to discover what the body does or doesn't believe, and then being able to rewire new beliefs and also close trauma loops. So he's testing it out with friends and family, and he's like, it seems like it's working, but I want the science to back it. So he did what's called EEG brain map testing, where they test what's happening with the neural circuitry and neural pathways in the brain, and discovered that when you're doing PSYCH-K, first and foremost, what's beautiful is you go into what's called a whole brain state. And when you're in a whole brain state, that's the optimal state for your brain to be in. It's when your right and left hemisphere are really effectively communicating, and that's when they can create new neural pathways and new beliefs. And so it showed that, sure enough, when you're doing PSYCH-K, you are creating new beliefs, but you're also resetting your nervous system, which, thank God, there's so much talk about the nervous system right now. But what I want more people to know is that the nervous system is actually governed by the subconscious.
I mean, this sounds very interesting. I just want to know, like, what do you do?
Yeah, so there's a specific testing that you do. So with each client, like, you can't do it in big groups because it's an individualized process. So with each client, what I do is it's called balancing. So you balance the system so that it understands the process of PSYCH-K. And there's so many different forms of testing. I ask the client which one they're most comfortable with. I like the human pendulum, so they kind of go front to back, right to left. And then they get used to the process, and they're always so surprised that their body knows the answers, because the subconscious, your body kind of is the subconscious. Like it's been programmed by you, right? So it's going to answer for you without you using your mind. And I would say that's probably my favorite part of it, is that this is about like not overly thinking. It's letting your body and its wisdom really speak for you. So we do this specific form of muscle testing to understand what your body does or doesn't believe. And then from there, you can change your beliefs. Like, what is it that you want to believe instead? And also close trauma loops, which is incredibly, incredibly impactful for people.
So anybody listening,
Yeah.
I can imagine they're thinking this is like woo-woo.
Sure.
But what you're telling me is that it's actually, it's not woo-woo. It's actually like a physical thing that you're doing that is triggering a subconscious response. So you're awake. You're not like under
totally
hypnosis.
Awake. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You're totally awake. This is why I love it, because listen, I have a very strong logical brain and I'm very spiritual. So I needed both. I needed it to be spiritual because I think everything we do in life is spiritual, really. And I think the thing that gets in our way is our mind, and it's actually quite limiting. And so when I discovered something, because I looked at all the different modalities, when I discovered something that incorporated spirituality and science, I was like, oh, I'm all in on this. And then Bruce Lipton, who's a leading biologist, he's the guy who kind of made epigenetics widely known. Epigenetics, for anybody listening who doesn't know, is that our genes are not predestined forever. It's actually our environment that's informing our genes. And that breaks down to our thoughts are informing the matter of our biology. And so when you understand that, you understand the power of your thoughts and how they can make you sick or they can make you well. So he's toured with Rob, who created PSYCH-K, because he was like, yeah, you could completely change your genetic expression if you change your thoughts. And people would be like, yeah, how do you do that? And then Rob's like, well, I know how to help people. So they've toured the world for the past 30 years, helping people do this with PSYCH-K.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, so I've recently started working with a therapist on EMDR therapy. Mm-hmm. And we've only like touched it a few times, you know, and I've heard about EMDR a bunch. Mm-hmm. I've heard people that I respect in a real way talk about the success that EMDR has had on them. Mm-hmm. And I too am like a very spiritual person. Mm-hmm. And so for me, like, give me all the, you know, alternative stuff before anybody, you know, tries to put a pill in my face.
Yes.
And I've got no issues with mental health medication, but I do like to exhaust any sort of option I can to sort of uncover. And I think I'm also lucky and blessed that I'm an open-minded person, right?
Yeah.
So this sounds like it's right up my alley. You know, I just did an interview I was just at NBC doing an interview about this project that I did that was very intense. Mm-hmm. And the way this organization promotes this project is through what some would call like clickbait, intense sort of like masculinity at its peak, bunch of guys, you know, rolling around in the, you know, getting their ass kicked, and I did this thing. And
did you enjoy it?
I loved it.
Okay, great.
I loved it. And but they brought me on because they were doing this piece about like how this thing is perceived as this, like, is it necessary to physically beat yourself down to a point where you're like less than, you know, optimal, far less than optimal physically to get to the tough stuff to talk about. And I just want to experiment with it. It was very, very helpful for me. But I think a lot of people, and I would imagine that you probably have a lot more experience than I do with especially something like this, we're like trained to be closed-minded.
Yeah. What's really beautiful is lately I'm seeing more and more people become extremely open-minded, which I'm thrilled about. So especially with spirituality and different healing modalities. Because you guys, I've done enough therapy for all of us forever, for many lifetimes. And I love therapy. I think it's helpful. It's just that there are other ways to heal and get incredible results and be able to truly enjoy your life that are not just talking in circles. And that's what a lot of people have come to me over the years saying, like, I've done all the therapy, I've done all the personal development, self-help, read all the, listened to the podcast, read all the books, and I'm still bumping up against the same freaking habits over and over again, or limited mindset, or toxic relationship dynamics. And I'm open to exploring a different way. And I'm so glad, because I think we're going to see more and more of this. I mean, the time is now to elevate our consciousness. And I think a lot of people are feeling the draw to do that inner work. And I mean, I've had a history. I've done all the pills. Mm-hmm. I was in and out of eating disorder hospitals for all of my adolescence. Very, very sick. And so I tried all the medications. And for some people it does work, but it never worked for me. And that's what kind of led me down this path of wanting to help people. Once I was fully healed, I was like, I have to help as many people as I can. Especially because I did it in an alternative way.
Like, walk us through what a success story looks like a client of yours, like what a success story looks like.
Wow. They're so varied as far as lately, I'll say this. Lately, there's been a lot of beautiful success stories with women going through divorces, because I'm divorced. I'm very good friends with my ex. I'm lucky in that regard, very lucky in that regard. And a lot of women that are coming to me in that state, they are beside themselves, they have children, they feel extremely lost, and their confidence is in the toilet. Like, they are just not in a good place. And to watch them really reclaim who they are and their identity, and realizing their strength, and remembering what they're passionate about, and that they're capable of building an entirely new life that's so much more aligned with who they really, really are at their core, not who they kind of became after being in, a 10, 20, 30-year relationship. And watching those women come alive, I mean, it brings tears to my eyes. It's like the most beautiful thing in the world, because it's not only for them, but for their children to see that, for their family. So I would say that's been a really fun success story I do retreats with my business partner. She is a medicine woman from Chile. So talk about spiritual. She's as spiritual as it gets. And she does these incredible cacao ceremonies where you get messages from your ancestors, and you get to get out of your head and into your heart. And it's so beautiful. And so we do these day retreats with our clients, and we go this recently with this woman who'd gone through an awful, awful divorce. We went to her house in DC and did a day retreat, and we got to celebrate like her new home. And it was just I cried like most of the time, because I was just so happy for her, I mean, it's a total transformation in every way, physically, mentally, emotionally. So I would say that's been some of my favorite success stories.
One question that I have that you began to sort of speak about is our subconscious is kind of wired from the ages of 0 to 7.
Oh, yeah.
So if that's the case, and you grow up in like a wonderful home, what are the chances of you still having this self-doubt and tell yourself the story of less than later on in life?
I mean, pretty high. Not because, listen, even in hearing 0 to 7, it's also programmed from heightened emotional events, like really big events that happen in your life, and then from society. So it's not just from your family, And I say pretty high because we live in a world that is filled with fear. And some science shows that over 70% of our subconscious conditioning is based in fear, a lot of which is because of the society we live in. So having self-doubt, I think, is normal. I think it's a normal human experience. I think changing the framing around it is helpful. And also, of course, changing your beliefs is tremendous in the way that it affects how you view yourself, what you think is possible, and what you go after in life.
Fear is such a potent influence, right? It's just one of those things that exists for everyone, and there's no escaping fear. There's literally no way to get around fear outside of into and through it.
But it's also useful.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm a fear chaser.
Yeah.
Personally.
I love that.
But how do you think a healed person perceives fear in comparison to, because I would imagine fear is the trigger for most everyone, right? When it comes to mental health or mental unhealth, fear is typically, and it'll show up in depression, anxiety, inability to be present, typically, right? Because like if there's something coming down the pipe and you know it's coming down the pipe and you're scared right now, when you think about it logically, that tends to be a useless sort of expression of the time right now, focused on the fear that's 3 weeks away, the scary thing, right?
Right.
But fear, I think, it has so much power, and it's so like it a lot of us are just totally immersed in fear a lot of the time. Like you said, 70% of the subconscious is based on fear.
Yeah.
So is there, and have you experienced from you personally, but also from clients of yours, a difference in the way people perceive fear? Because one last thing that I'll say, and then I'm going to pass the mic to you. I was like, I don't know if I was reading, I don't remember what book. I was reading Michael Pollan's book on psilocybin, right? Yeah. And he went through this crazy journey where he just wanted to explore. And he found, he met these people that were administering psilocybin to people in hospice care. And what the experience that he had was, he would like interview them before psilocybin experience, and then after like a few psilocybin guided journeys, and the difference in their perception of the ultimate fear, which is death, was like, he was like, it was profound.
Oh, I'm sure. I would say, so back to the cacao real quick. That is something I love so much about cacao, that Danny, my business partner, has introduced to me, because it's not cacao that you buy at the grocery store, by the way. It's ceremonial cacao. It comes from the oldest cacao farm in the world, and it's called the food of the gods. But when drinking that, it has helped me get out of my head, and I've seen it for my clients, and get into their hearts and be less afraid and be more trusting of life. So that's a practice that I've done that's helpful. But in regards to fear, something that I talk to all of my clients about is that you mentioned depression and anxiety. And I know that so much of what's classified as mental health stuff is, I don't even say mental health is like it's a tricky thing, for so many different reasons. But here's what I'll say is, we have been conditioned to believe that we need to run from our feelings. And when people learn how to actually be okay with feelings and let them move through their body, and that they're just energy in motion, and a lot of times they come with messages, then you're not trying to escape what's alive inside of you. So you actually become, you actually have a relationship with it. And so what I do with a lot of my clients is actually get them very comfortable with feeling their feelings, all of them, including fear, and telling themselves that it's okay to feel that. And then, because it's been proven over and over again that feelings come to pass within 90 seconds if you don't resist them. So when we resist them, Gabor Mate talks about this so beautifully, like depression is just pushed down emotion that's been pushed down and pushed down and pushed down.
Compounding over years.
Yeah, over time. And listen, like I've been to the Lindy Bin, like I've been in mental institutions. I've seen the most extreme of all of this. And when I was there, I was like, I don't know that these people are so crazy. Like, I think that what they would be perceived as crazy, right? I'm like, I don't know. I think they just have a lot going on, And society's not letting it be expressed the way it's being expressed. Now, I'm not saying that there's not true mental illness. Of course there is. But I think that the way we go about it, especially in America, like everybody's just trying to be so perfect and biohack the shit out of everything and like be overly controlled. And I think it's not really serving their well-being.
Have you dealt with, as a practitioner, have you dealt with severely mental ill people that you've been able to help?
I have helped some people who've had mental health stuff, yes. Would I say severe? No. Like my brother was bipolar. He's since passed, but like I don't want to deal with that because I'm not a doctor, and I make that abundantly clear, right? But depression, like another success case that you were asking earlier, like one client had been to a therapist since he was a kid. And he's a high achiever. He's an incredible guy. And he was just overwhelmed with depression and trying to keep up with the life that he had built. And he did all this work with the subconscious, became comfortable with feeling his feelings. And my biggest thing is really, I do all of this work with the subconscious to remove the barriers, which are the fearful beliefs, so that you can trust your intuition. Because to me, that is the wisest part of all human beings. And we have access to it all day long. We just forget it because we've been conditioned to believe the mind is smarter. And so when he did that and closed some trauma loops around some previous things that happened in his past, his depression lifted completely.
That's amazing.
And he's so happy. And does he have moments? Of course, because he's human, you know? But his wife, so sweetly, I know her, she's like, there's a before Ash and after Ash. And I'm like, this isn't about me. He's the one who did all the work. You know, like he was brave enough to do something different. And he said that doing this subconscious work, he made more progress in 6 months than he'd made since I think it was like, I don't know, 10 years old that he started therapy.
I mean, I've shared about it a bunch on the podcast because breath work has been monumental for me. Massively. Anybody who hasn't, I mean, if you're just listening to this podcast for the first time, you know, you should definitely look into some breath work. If you listen to this podcast on a regular basis, you know, everybody that's listening will know that like I've shared this journey that I've had with breath work that has, and again, like I've been through therapy, I've been in and out of therapy, you know, for a very, very long time. And nothing cognitive has ever come even close to what I've been able to tap into and unearth in deep, long breathwork sessions.
Oh, that's incredible.
Like so powerful.
Isn't it amazing? Like the power of your breath. It is so incredible.
And the other thing that I would just say, and I would imagine is probably similar to this, is that in the breath, for me anyway, my experience is like I go in with, you know, some sessions I'll go in with a very articulate intention. Yeah. Right? I am trying to work on this one thing. Mm-hmm. But most of them, and I've done a number of them now, and they're long and it's intense and it's scary as hell. Yeah. But I'm not going in with any preconceived notion of what's going to come up, and the things just come up. Yeah. And that has got to be my subconscious. Mm-hmm. You know, it's got to be because I am in such a state where it literally takes me 20 minutes to recover from the breath and feel like I'm back in my body. I'm so intrigued by this. So can you do it virtually? Or I do it all virtually. So I have clients all over the world. Okay, well, what we do, and what we do in person is the retreat, which I think you would love so much because you're into spirituality. But the retreat's cool because doing the cacao, and Danny's so gifted. She does energy healing, and you get messages from your ancestors and like a clarity about what you need to know about your life currently, like whatever that may be, like where you're going, or it could be any number of things. But then because you're so out of your head and into your heart, it's even easier to do the PSYCH-K, which is what we followed up with. Because like you said, like people can be closed-minded, right? But it's like when you're out of your head and you're into your heart, you're home. You're in your natural state. Mm-hmm. And you're so much more receptive to the PSYCH-K. And so people are just amazed at what comes up during those sessions. Me, just so the people listening can understand what it means to be out of your head and into your heart. Like if you had to describe that, what would that be? Like, how would you describe that?
Ultimately, I would say it's imagine being so comfortable in yourself, in your mind and your body, that you feel at home within yourself, like you're snuggled up next to a warm fireplace, just so comfortable with who you are, with where your life's at, with what's going on, with trusting life, that you're not going up into your mind trying to figure everything out.
Do you think that everything is like planned?
I knew you were going to ask that. I knew it. I think when I tell you that I have had this conversation for hours with my business partner, I couldn't even clock them, probably hundreds, because we talk about destiny and all of it at great length. Do I think everything's planned? I do. I think I do. I've gone on a journey with this because when my brother died, I was wrecked. I was just wrecked in every way, shape, and form. And it was a long time ago. I was always spiritual, but then I was like, I got to understand this death thing. Like, somebody help me make sense of this. And that's when I dove down, like understanding past lives and wanting to get to know that, because I didn't grow up in a religious household. My parents were very spiritual and encouraged us to discover that on our own, which I'm so thankful for. And so when I went down that rabbit hole, I was like, this makes a lot of sense that we're souls. We choose to come down. We choose our parents. And then we choose those parents because they're going to help us have the experience that we're here to have this go around. And then I think a lot of it's already predestined and chosen. I think you have a soul family, like people that are going to come into your life that you just immediately feel at home with them. And there's a reason, because you've done this dance more than once. And you're here to learn the lessons you're here to learn this go round. So like when I got pregnant, I knew it was going to be a girl. I mean, I'm highly intuitive. So like I felt into it. I was like, it's going to be a girl. But I also just knew that we'd done this dance before. So when she was born, the first thing I said to her when I looked into her eyes is I said, it's so nice to see you again. Because I really feel that. I feel like we just know each other through and through in every way. And think about it. Do you have relationships with people where you're like, it didn't take a long time to get to know them? You just feel like you know them?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you believe in it being?
I do.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think every situation is necessarily planned. When people say, it was just meant to be, or, I believe that there's a certain amount of people that are capable of withstanding an abnormal amount of suffering.
Yeah.
That still power through.
Yeah.
And then there are others that don't.
Yeah.
And I do believe my grandmother, so I kind of grew up in a similar situation, not at my nuclear home, but my grandmother, who's tattooed right here. She's the most unbelievable influence I've had in my life.
Oh, I love that.
She was a healer, and she was a crystal healer. Her life was built around crystal healing, and she had a crystal shop in Queens, and she was a practicing Buddhist, but she was really deep into healing and crystal healing. And so for me, I think why I'm so open-minded and why I was able to get through, I mean, if you took historical paperwork, for lack of a better word, of my life, what my childhood was like.
Yeah.
And you compared it to where my life is now as a father and a husband, like the logistical human, like the finance bro would be like, impossible. I would never put my money on that actually happening, right? Like it was rough in my childhood. It was violent. It was tough. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
The life that I have today with my wife and my kids, and how I conduct with my kids and my wife, could not be more different. Literally the opposite side of the coin than what it was like for me growing up. And my grandmother, I believe my exposure to her who actually was my father's mother, who my father was the problem for me. Her influence on me gave me the strength and gave me the ability to believe that I was an old soul.
Yeah.
She always told me that. From the day I was born, she told my mother, she's like, oh boy, he's an old soul. Good luck. And she always told me that. Mm-hmm. And she inspired me, no matter what, to put the right foot in front of the left.
That's so incredible.
Yeah. So I think, getting back to the question, do I think it's planned? I think that I think that people that I know and I kind of can feel like you have been put here to suffer. And we're kind of at the end of this like kind of suffering thing. And now we've come out of that suffering and we're sharing how you can potentially not evade it or run from it or hide from it, but embrace it and actually use it in a positive way.
Yeah.
So I believe that.
I love that. Yeah.
I believe that. You know, I do believe that. You know, like when something bad happens in my life, I'm not like, fuck. I'm like, to be expected.
Yeah.
This is like no shock. This is not a shock because it's not like irresponsible bad things that are happening anymore. You know, in the beginning it was.
Yeah.
But now it's like higher power, universe, God, whatever you want to call it, is just giving me another experience to have to get through.
Yeah.
And then share about.
I love that. It's so true. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I hear people talk about tests, like life is testing you. I don't know if I believe that. Like I think we get invitations and they're going to have certain outcomes. But I don't think we're being tested. Like I'm opting out of this whole like grind culture, got to be super hard on ourselves to make changes. I just want to help people love themselves more and spread more love throughout the world, you know? And yeah, did I go through some stuff that was challenging? Sure, I think we all have, right? But it's like what you're saying, like what you make of it. And the older I get, the more in love I am with life and all of its facets, the more I'm like, I don't know that any of this is a test. I think it's all this great opportunity for us to grow and to discover who we are and to discover the people around us and learn how to love more deeply. I don't know.
What do you think it would be like if there was no money?
Oh, for the love. You know, it's so funny because talk about things that I work on with people a lot, their beliefs around money. And I tell everybody, money isn't good or bad. Money is actually neutral. It's just an amplifier. So to me, money only amplifies what's already present within somebody. So it's like if you're a greedy asshole, you're going to be a greedy asshole with a lot of money. If you're a kind, generous, loving human being, money's not going to change you. It's just going to allow you to have an avenue to do those things in greater abundance. That's it. So if there was no money, I do think because of the belief and conditioning around that and how much it has really messed with people's mindsets, I think there would be a lot more neutrality. I think we would look at each other from a lot more level ground.
Don't you think money is the main catalyst for fear for most people?
I would say, if we could do it in tiers, I would say it is the third tier. But I would say underneath money, because this is what I do with people, it's like, okay, I hear that's the surface level thing, but what's underneath that? I think at the end of the day, what everybody wants is safety, security, and love. So I think that is the driving force, right? Like when you think about your struggles, when you are struggling with whatever it may be, like for me, it was the eating disorder. And then it was, I'm sober, not because I had an addiction to either alcohol or any other substance, but I eventually was just like, I don't like the way alcohol makes me feel anymore. I hate feeling disconnected from myself, and I hate not being able to hear my intuition. If there's two things that I could say the H word about, it's those two things, because then my life feels like a mess, you know? So I eventually stopped doing those things because I was like, I'm just looking for love in all the wrong places. I'm looking for love and belonging and some type of safety and security in things that are never going to give me that. And I think that that's like copy and paste that to so many things for people.
It's all about love.
If I have enough money, then I'm going to be lovable. I'm going to be seen as worthy. I'm going to be seen as successful, whatever it may be, right?
It's love.
It's love for all of us. So like the whole thing with money, I just wish like the jig would be up and people would get like this. It's not the problem. It's the stuff underneath it. It's our belief structure around it that's actually making it the issue.
Are you a habit person? Do you?
I do rituals. Yeah.
Rituals.
Yeah.
So like, what does a typical morning look like for you?
I wake up at 5 because I like to wake up an hour before my daughter for school. And I do 30 to 40 minutes of meditation. And then I do a little bit of PSYCH-K.
What kind of meditation do you do?
I switch it up. I do a lot of visualization meditations. Guided or self-guided, because I also do I guide people through meditations. So either self-guided or guided from somebody else. And then, or I do a meditation where I ask Source and my guides, my spiritual guides, to give me clear messages. Like, get me out of the way. Just like, help me know what you want me to know. Like, what do you need me to do today? And I'll do it. So I switch it up between those two. Then I do PSYCH-K.
Can I ask one more question on that? So
yeah.
in the like, because I love hearing about different sort of meditation techniques and styles.
Yeah.
So like in your visualization meditation, like what do you like? Is it a different visualization, or is it like a similar kind of like body check-in, you know, golden globe sort of above your head?
I love the golden globe. Isn't it so good? It's so good.
Yeah.
I do that for sure. Sometimes it's like visualizing changes that I want to make in my life and like actually feeling it as though it's real.
Like manifestations.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm sure you know this, maybe your audience does, but your body doesn't know the difference between past, present, and future. So when you're visualizing, that's why it's so, mental rehearsal is incredibly impactful for your well-being, and it's what helps you magnetically attract things into your life, because your body doesn't know the difference. So when I'm trying to create something in my life that I'm consciously aware of, then I'll visualize it happening and feel it in my body and see myself like walking down the street being whatever that thing is. So that's what I'll do visualizations around, or like certain outcomes. Like I wanted to have a great outcome and be really great friends with my former husband through the divorce process. So I would just envision us like still being a family, it just being a different structure. And that's what we've created. And it took both of us, by the way, to do that. But like that's one of many examples. And then as far as the other ones, it's like just get me out of the way and show me what you want to show me. And I see visuals with that.
Do you notice that like, so I never meditate for more than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I haven't gotten that far.
Yeah.
Do you see a difference between like the longer you're in meditation? Yeah. You do?
Yeah. I've been meditating for a long time now. Like I've been meditating since I was 20. So 23 years.
Okay. So you feel like, where's the threshold, kind of like where something is actually starts to feel? Because I've been meditating for a long time too, and I'm still, I'm just like, what's happening here, bro? Like are you? Is there? I'm committed to it, and I do it, and I actually feel serene when I'm done meditating.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. But I have not had, and maybe that is the whole goal. Maybe it's not about like the thing. Maybe it's just like, hey man, this is a real opportunity. And maybe the Buddha was just basically saying, you just need to be and not like just be. Like allow yourself to just breathe and like try your best to just pay attention to that. Because when you open your eyes and other people step into your periphery, you are completely out of control. Like your life is now no longer in your control. So if you can give yourself this little reprieve on a daily basis to just be quiet, there's something that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would say too that two things. One, I'm curious, have you ever tried Joe Dispenza meditations?
I have, and I do them.
Okay, yeah. I like his meditations a lot.
Although I do find it a little funky when he goes into that weird alien voice.
I know, it's a little weird. It's also like really, it is a little weird. I think he's incredible. I've learned so much from his teachings. That's why I do such a mixture of things. Because another thing that I've learned more recently is how much energy of other people we carry within ourselves, which I was like, is that true? Is that not true? So I'm saying this because of your experience with meditation. Like, I really think another part of my morning routine is that I empty out every morning and every night, meaning I imagine that golden globe and I ask Creator and my guides to empty out all the energy that's not mine to carry, because we are so receptive to other people's energy, and then we're carrying it around a lot of times not realizing that it's not ours. So many people are feeling anxious, or like they can walk into a room, be in a great mood, get around somebody who's in not such a great mood, and then they leave in a bad mood.
Totally.
And it's like, well, because you're carrying that person's energy within you. And so emptying out is actually really important, because then you are clear with what's your energy.
So I would love a technical play-by-play here. I want to do that. And I want the listener to be able to do that. And I think hearing it could potentially not make the most sense for somebody listening. So let's just walk through what that is.
Yeah. So, and I learned this from my business partner, Danny, because she's the energy healer. So what I do is, and you can just sit down anywhere, or even if you're standing up, it doesn't really matter. It takes 1 minute. All you want to do is close your eyes. Imagine that there's a beautiful golden globe above your head that's shining like the sun. And then you just want to imagine that that golden globe is then shining that light, and it's pouring down through your head, and it's going all the way down your head, through your throat. And as it's pouring down, that beautiful warm light is clearing out all the energy that's not yours to carry. And so you're just imagining that light going all the way down your body, through your throat, through your chest, down to your stomach, down to your
There's the guided meditation voice. You just turned that thing on quick, girl.
And then going all the way down your legs. And then I always imagine that as it goes down your legs, it's then growing these beautiful golden roots. And those roots are growing from your feet all the way down to the center of the earth, because then it's grounding you into the present. And then you're feeling the earth supporting you. And then you're back in your own energy and clear about what's yours and what somebody else's, you know? And that's why I think even meditating from that space is very different than just like being about your life and around your kids and your family and all the stuff, and then just like sitting down to meditate. It's a lot of times you're still carrying stuff that's not yours.
All right, so you're up at 5.
Yep.
My favorite part of the day.
It's the best. I do drink coffee right away.
Okay, so you're up at 5, you drink coffee right
But
away.
I do not drink caffeine. That's another thing I quit. So I would say like quitting alcohol was the best thing ever. It's the best thing ever.
How long ago was that?
5 years. I love it so much. And I loved wine. I loved the way wine tasted with food. God damn it, I love wine. But I hate the way it makes me feel. So quitting that was great, but then going to, I would say the next best thing was quitting caffeine, because I think so many people, myself included, are walking around feeling anxious, not realizing that it's caffeine.
How do you drink coffee without caffeine?
So I just drink an enormous amount of decaf coffee. I love coffee.
Me too.
So I get my favorite coffee from actually here in New York, Oslo Coffee. I get their decaf sent to my house.
I lived right around the corner from
Oh
them.
my God.
For
It's
years.
the best coffee.
Yep, Williamsburg, Brooklyn, right on just off of Metropolitan and Drake's.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They have a spot on West 10th that I go to all the time. It's the best.
I'm also off of caffeine for I'm on week 9.
How's it going?
It's going.
It's rough at first, right?
Yeah, I mean the first couple of weeks was really hard.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that I believe, and I could prove it by like my wearable technology data.
Yeah.
My breath rate is down a full point. I'm sure my cortisol levels are down. My anxiety levels, I'm sure, are down. And I never really had a problem falling asleep, but my sleep is just better.
Yeah.
Sleep is
Well, and I
better.
bet your adrenals are so happy.
I'm
Yeah.
doing like a massive gut cleanse right now, like
Oh,
a big
wow.
gut shakeout rebuild. So
Oh, man.
the guy was like, "Sorry, man, no
Gotta
more
go.
caffeine."
Oh my God. I work with Parsley Health. I've worked with my doctor there for 3 years. And when I went to her, she's like, so you have to do gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, and 1 cup of coffee a day. And I looked at her, I was like, it sounds like a death sentence to an Italian woman. Like, this sounds awful. And I'm leaving to go get a cup of coffee to stay awake for dinner. And she's like, okay, but I'm just telling you that, which I didn't know, caffeine stays in your system for 12 hours. So after you drink it, it's still, and I'm sensitive to caffeine. So it stays in your system for a long time, which is what disrupts your sleep, But doing those protocols, it's one of those things that I like to say I want a dimmer switch around, because once you're aware of how good you feel, you kind of can't go back. Like for me with gluten, I was like, damn it, I don't want to know that I feel so much better not eating it. I mean, I eat it more now, but the same thing with caffeine. Like once I stopped doing it, I was like, wow, I feel a million times better.
I feel like Parsley Health, I mean, they're awesome. I met with them years ago, probably 2017, and they did the exact same thing with me. They were like, no gluten, no dairy, no sugar. I feel like if you tell anybody no gluten, no dairy, no sugar, and they actually do it,
yeah, I did it.
you win.
I did.
The doctor wins. The doctor's like, told you.
Yeah.
Because it's like, of course you're gonna feel better without that inflammation all over your body, especially if you're sensitive to it.
Well, I do want to say a little side note. I did it for 9 months. I felt so much better. I was only supposed to do it for 3, but I felt so much better because my adrenals and hormones were totally shot. I was like not functioning. I actually came here for the first time for that appointment right before COVID. But what I will say is that I do eat gluten and dairy now almost every day. But that reset was huge. I do not feel that way when I'm in Europe. It's the gluten here. It's the way the food is here in the US. I feel completely different when I eat in Europe.
Totally. My wife is Danish. We go there. I definitely partake in gluten and dairy for sure, without a doubt, and sugar. And I'm sure the sugar is the same.
And I bet you feel great.
But I do not feel bad.
Yeah,
I do not
see?
feel bad. Like in New York, when I do it, like, and I have Lyme disease and autoimmune shit. So like,
yeah,
gluten and dairy really do trigger inflammation for me. So I'll like see it immediately in my fingers. Like I'm dealing with a Lyme flare up right now, which triggers psoriatic arthritis for me. So like my knuckles, you see how like weird and lumpy these knuckles are?
Yeah.
Like it'll just like happen.
Oh,
it
that sucks.
But
weird story. I actually grew up where Lyme disease started.
In Lyme, Connecticut?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
That's where I grew up, yeah.
So, all right. So you're up at 5. You have a cup of decaf coffee immediately, and then you get into your meditation. And then what?
And then I do a little PSYCH-K. And then...
So PSYCH-K is something that you can just do?
Yeah, I can do because I'm certified in it. I can do it for myself. But I do start every morning, whether I do some PSYCH-K balances or not, every morning I do what's called whole brain posture. And that's something that you learn in the certification. And that resets your nervous system in 1 minute flat. So I do that every morning to start my day. I do it at night. And then if I'm like having a moment, I mean, you can go to the bathroom and do it, sit in this posture, and it just does what it says. It puts you into a whole brain state, which is so beautiful, and it resets your nervous system. You can feel it immediately. My clients are always amazed by it because they're like, how did this work so quickly? But so I do that, and then I journal for a bit. And if I have time, I move my body before my daughter wakes up, but usually I don't. I do it after I drop her off at school.
And is that your journal?
Yeah.
Tell us about your journal.
So I created a journal called My New Chapter, which is basically what I've helped people do forever, is create new chapters in their lives for the past 11 years. And it's a compilation of all the questions that I ask my clients. So it has over 60 prompts in it. And your new chapter could be like, it's a new month. It could be that you move somewhere new. It could be about anything that's a new chapter in your life. And so I guide you through a transformation process that's really about acknowledging how far you've come and then getting really clear with what you want to create moving forward, and helping you hone in on listening to your intuition over your conditioning so that you can be in tune with the magic of your life rather than kind of beating yourself up to get where you want to go. So.
All right. So you journal, and then it's daughter time.
Yeah, and then I'm in mom mode.
Mom mode.
Yeah, and then the South, they have kids go to school so early.
What time?
Her late bell's 7:20.
Wow.
It's awful.
Why is it that
I
early?
know. I don't know, but I don't know.
That's early.
It's so early. And
My kid's late bell is 8:15.
And when did they get out?
2:45.
See, I don't get it. She gets out at 2:20. I'm like, where? I don't understand what's happening here.
It's gotta be something. Is it something with the heat, maybe?
No. There's a lot of things that I don't understand about the South, the Southern schooling system, because I grew up north, you know, so it's so different.
Yeah.
So then I work with clients when she's at school, and then I'm back I only work while she's at school. So when she's out, then it's back to mom mode, running to theater and doing all her fun little activities. And
do you have a wind down routine?
I do. Every night I drink calm magnesium, and I try to put my screens away completely for at least 30 minutes before falling asleep. And I like to read. I'm a big reader. So
Any good book recs that you want to give us?
Oh my God, there's so many. You know what I just picked up again is, I'm reading 2 books right now. One that I've read so many times, which is Women Who Run with Wolves. It's a beautiful book. And the other one is Sovereign Love by Danae Logan. Do you know her?
Mm-mm.
It's so great. It's about the divine masculine and divine feminine, and how to bring those into, first and foremost, embody them within yourself, but how to have really sovereign, healthy relationships.
What is divine masculine and divine feminine?
I mean, there's states of being, they're energetic states of being that we all have within us. It's just that I'm not going to do a great job describing them because there's quite a lengthy description of each. But the divine feminine is very intuitive and very playful and a little bit wild, and just very aware of like who she is. She's creative. And then the divine masculine is structured but holds space very well, is a seer, can see things very clearly, is great at holding space, like I said, and listening, and also enjoys structure by getting things done within that structure in a healthy way, but isn't overly rigid. So it's like it's a more balanced way, you know, in our society. A lot of relationships are extreme.
I was telling you earlier that I was just on this sort of NBC thing, and they were prodding me to try to get me to talk about my take on masculinity. Yeah. And I knew what they were after. They wanted me to say something that was going to stir it up. And so they kept, and because I knew that was going to come, and so I kind of thought through like, what is my perception of this thing, masculinity, that's like all over the media right now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I believe that true masculinity is just confidence. It's not about strength. It's not about power. Yeah. It's not about control. Yeah. It's not about, ripping trees down with your bare hands. It's about confidence. And toxic masculinity is the exact opposite of confidence. It's ego. And like they were like, but what? And I was like, that's what I think.
I love that.
And I think that. So I'm super curious about sort of like the origins of masculinity and femininity, because I do think that we, male and female, have both. My wife is very, very feminine, but she has some incredible masculine qualities that show up in confidence. Not afraid to just walk over to a wall and put a sledgehammer through it. I'm like,
oh my God.
Woo! Yeah. All right, girl. Like, I'll come home and she literally is built like a wall unit.
Holy.
Like
that's impressive.
Yeah, like, so I do think that there is this it's unfortunate that it's so hostile in the conversation, because at the end of the day, it's really truth or actor, right? Like I really do think of the ego as the actor within us. The ego is like the fearful voice that wants to protect us And if it ever feels threatened, it'll very quickly make one of two decisions.
Yeah.
If it feels threatened, it's going to say, okay, act tough.
Mm-hmm.
Act tough, act tough, act tough, puff up, be an asshole. Or it will say, run for the hills. You suck. You cannot do this. It's impossible. You know yourself. You know that you suck. You know that you're not smart enough. You know that you're not tall enough. You know that you're not sharp enough. You know that you're not strong enough. You know that you're never going to be able to do it. Get the heck out of here. Fly for the hills, you know?
Yeah.
And I believe that. And I think that ego really does propel this whole toxic masculinity thing.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's all conditioning. I really do.
Right, yeah, I agree.
I think it's all conditioning that's led to that. And I think it's coming to a peak. Like, I think it's all crumbling down. And thank God, because it's not sustainable anymore, you know? And I think I'm watching people have a strong desire to change their relationship with what they view both masculine and femininity to be, which is great. And I think a lot, you know, what you were just saying about the ego, a lot of people say, like, what does it feel like to live an intuitive life? It's like to trust that inner knowing that feels like you know something, you don't know why you know it, you just know, over what you think you should do, what your fear is telling you, what guilt's driving you to do, what you're trying to prove to the world. It's like, no, just trusting that inner knowing, which speaks to people in different ways. It doesn't matter if you're a male or a female or masculine or feminine, that knowing is inside you all the time, no matter what. And feeding that more is what helps you, in my opinion, be more balanced with both.
This has been such a fun combo. I'm so curious. Like, I feel like I was crushing you with questions, so I'm sorry if it felt that way.
No, not at all.
But I'm like, especially with people like you that are doing things that are really making an impact, and some people would not believe it, right? Like, when I talk about breath work, or when I talk about meditation, or when I talk about prayer, when I talk about positive affirmations, when I talk about journaling, and it's not that I used to do all those things, and I had a crazy morning routine for a long time, and I think I just had to get through that season to try to explore all these things, to come to the place where I was like, I can go in and out with these things, and I can do them for periods of time, and use them for what I think I need them for, and then dip out and then dip back in. But like, when I talk about those things, there is like a bunch of people that are gonna be like, yeah, right, dude, whatever. Like, oh yeah, those are really helping you be a better business person. And I'm like, yeah, actually. Being a better dad, being a better husband, loving myself more, I think at the end of the day, and I've always said this, if you're not at the top of your totem pole, everyone underneath you is going to suffer, or everyone above you is going to suffer.
100%.
And
it's so true.
I just think that is what the premise and the purpose of this podcast is, to share rituals, habits, and routines, also known as consistent decision making.
It's so true. Well, thank God you're sharing it, and you're helping so many people by doing it and sharing it in the way that you are, where you're like giving a behind the scenes of what it looks like to sometimes make tough decisions that don't necessarily feel natural in the beginning, but how much they've influenced your life. I mean, we need more people like you doing that, sharing it.
It's also, I also think that it's just expressed in like a real kind of matter-of-fact way.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing pretentious here.
Yeah.
There's no like, there's no incense and cactuses and things like that going on here. Not that I don't love that, because I do, but it's just like, hey, there are things that you have control of doing on a daily basis, and there are people that are experts in alternative ways to your doctor or traditional therapist that can help you uncover the truth.
Yeah. It's so true. Well, and what you said about changing your routine, doesn't that feel so freeing to know that you don't have to do it that way all the time? Because you think about it like, you take care of babies, and they need so much love and care. And those babies eventually become grown-ups. And it's like, it's not like you stop taking care of yourself as a grown-up. And we in society have put so much emphasis on external, showing up for everybody, showing up for our responsibilities, and being somewhat robotic even with our habits. And yet, the most important relationship you have is the one you have with yourself, because everything in your life is an extension of that. So when you come to these habits and choices from a place of love, doing it because you love yourself and you respect your mind, you respect your body, it is received so differently than doing it because you think you have to in order to achieve a certain outcome. You know, you have it creates a different relationship with yourself. And that, again, pours out into everything else you do.
How can people find you?
My website, ashcebulka.com, or on Instagram, which is also Ash Cebulka.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
I loved every minute of it. So I really appreciate it.
Same. Thank you.
All right, y'all. There we have it. Another great episode of the Kreatures of Habit Podcast. I was so tuned in there. I mean, I hope I was able to break things down, or I hope Ash was able to break things down in a way that you're able to potentially implement some of these things into your life. Like, you'll notice if you listen to the podcast often, anytime somebody talks about meditation, there's so many different ways to meditate. There's so many different styles and techniques and tools that you can use to help you in this lifelong kind of journey of meditation, that when I hear the word, I want to know exactly what's going down, because typically I will then try myself to implement some of those things. But yeah, I was totally tuned in, very, very excited to share this episode with you guys. And I'm going to be tapping Ash for this PSYCH-K thing. I think I really want to try it. And not only am I going to try it, but I'm going to give you guys an update, because I think it would be a really cool, exploration. I want to know the subconscious, and if it was, for me, if it was kind of wired in those first 7 years, this guy's got a lot of work to do. That subconscious needs a little unraveling, friends. So if you loved this podcast, it would mean the world to me if you shared it with a friend, your partner, your business partner, coworker, grandparents, mom, dad, uncle, brother, sister, maybe your kids if they're old enough to understand what we're talking about here. Just share the damn thing, because that is the price you pay for listening to the podcast, sharing it. And if you're feeling like super duper generous, and you are just like, man, I got 3 extra minutes in my day, do me a solid. Give me a 5-star rating and a review. If you hate me and you hate the podcast, don't give me a review. You can DM me. I'll happily communicate with you there. But if you do enjoy this podcast, a review would be fantastic. I love you guys and I appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in, subscribing, liking, all those good things. Until the next one, y'all. Peace.